Hi there, Tim McGuire, VP of Content and Community here at Pointman, and I'm here with Dale Bykowicz, who is one of our success coaches. Dale has been a general manager, owner and employee in general of some really successful home service companies and even some manufacturing companies here in town, and works with our clients every day. We're going to be talking today a little bit about some essential pieces of data that you want to make sure that you're capturing on every job that you run. And we're going to kind of start with a little bit of a talk of when we gather this information before we even get to the detail. And that's something that I think a lot of companies leave out. And that's the debrief at the end of the job. A simple collection of information, an exit interview that we do with our technicians after the job to capture some of this performance data. And Dale, you and I were talking a little bit before we started, and I put together these data points, but you brought up something really important too. That call with the office after the completion of the appointment gives that tech some opportunity to share some detail that could lead to a better customer service experience, couldn't it?
Most definitely. You never want to leave the customer hanging, not knowing what's going on. If you need to set an appointment, you want to take care of that. You don't want anything to fall through the cracks. Yeah, you want a good customer experience.
That's right. And you know, it's funny because we get caught up in a world where we're using software to run our businesses, and not everyone does that. You know, so a lot of people are still running on paper. And something as simple as a technician knowing, I told the customer I'm going to come back tomorrow, and they write it in the notes on the invoice or whatever it happens to be, and that invoice doesn't make it back to the office until the next day.
Right.
Now the customer's left hanging, not knowing when someone's going to show up.
And you want them to feel like you cared enough to call back or take care of them at that moment. You know?
Yeah. And I'm sure your dispatcher appreciates it, knowing that there's a commitment the next day.
Right. They don't want to take the call from the customer.
Indeed. So the dispatch call, the call to dispatch to debrief is something that we really want to make part of the job in general. But what we wanted to focus on here are some really key important pieces of information that you want to make part of every debriefing call, because they're going to help you to better grow and better manage your business. And we start off with something really simple, and that's identifying in this debrief the total value of the job, so the invoice total, and the second value, whether you collected on that job. So Dale, already there might be someone out there thinking to themselves, well, the invoice total, that's already on the invoice.
Right.
Why do I need to call that right in after the job?
A couple of reasons. You want to know if you're budgeting, how you did for that day.
Yeah.
How do you have to do tomorrow? Yeah, you don't want to wait till the end of the week to know if you met your budget for the week.
In the shops that you've worked in, did the guys always bring their invoices in at the end of the day?
Some did, some had software. Some were in the truck for several days before they got in there. So
yeah, I've done work with shops that their technicians took the trucks home, and in that case, they might not have come back to the office for 2 or 3 days,
several times,
just to restock or something like
Right.
that, and they would turn in literally a stack of 3 days worth of invoices at that point. So
you hope they did anyway.
Yeah, right. That's we'll get to the payment part of that in a moment, but having that stack of invoices then is going to take someone in the office a couple of days to get in, and you talked about budgeting, and that's a great point. What having this information in real time lets us do is understand performance in real time. So if I'm budgeting and breaking things down to daily goals, for it to take 30 days, let's even say 7 or 8 days, to know how we did in the first days of the month is really going to hurt my ability.
Right. You're going to be playing catch up if you don't make it in the first. Right. Exactly.
And the amount collected. Again, we were chatting, and it's funny because while it's really important for me, the business owner, to know we have this much cash coming in, there's a little bit of a psychological effect there too for the technician, because we struggle to get our technicians to ask for money.
Right. You always want them to collect. You always want them to bring back bring back the payments.
And how do they feel then if they know that they have to call the office and say, oh yeah, the job was $400, and then the dispatcher says, well, how much did you collect? And they have to say nothing. Yeah. Right. In that moment that you're standing there, that motivation of the shame of having to say I didn't collect is something that could really help to increase this. And in this world, cash is king.
Cash is king.
We need to be able to cover our bills. We need to be able to react and have cash on hand.
You can't sit in somebody's truck for 6 days or 7 days.
There you go. And if it does, at least we know what we're expecting coming back in. So that, again, a really important piece of information. Now we get to some kind of performance metrics for our technicians. In the shops that you've worked in, dispatch charge diagnostic fees, always part of the job?
Always, yep.
Excellent. If we run a job and only sell a diagnostic or the trip charge, but don't actually sell the repair. Profitability on that job, where are we usually falling?
It's dropping. It's not very good. Right.
No, we're generally not going to be profitable. By the time we pay that tech, the truck, all the rest. So one of the important factors that we really think it's important for you to gather on a job is what we call the number of money tasks that were sold on that job. The number of repairs or tasks that were sold beyond the diagnostic charge. What does that give us? We talk about closing ratio for salespeople. It's pretty easy. I offered an estimate, they sold or they didn't. For a technician, that closing ratio is what did we get that customer to move forward with the repair once we've diagnosed it. And tech training, a big part of what you guys did?
Always.
So there's probably a lot of talk about the presentation process with people and things of that sort. And we'll talk about add-ons in a moment, but probably part of that too, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So to be able to look at these numbers and say that this technician, out of 30 jobs in the course of a week or whatever it happens to be, 20 of those times they're not able to sell beyond the diagnostic, there's something we have to do there.
There's some training that needs to be done.
For sure.
Exactly. Yep.
So we call that the closing ratio for the service technician, the number of repairs sold beyond the diagnostic. And we don't just want to know yes or no. Sure, that's good enough. I know we sold beyond, but the number of tasks sold. Again, these are metrics that we can use for comparing technicians. How often and how much are my guys selling on these jobs? And that kind of leads into the next item, which would be the number of add-ons that were sold or upsells that were sold on the job. So we go out there with a purpose, and depending upon the season or the type of repair that we're doing, there's different things that our technicians should know to be offering to that customer after the fact.
Right. Indoor air quality, duct cleaning, things like that.
Yeah.
Something that pretty much everybody needs.
Right. And I mean, something as simple in the plumbing world is if you're there doing a drain cleaning, to offer that Bio 1 or the biological drain cleaners and so forth, should be a pretty easy sell at that point.
Right.
And if you're offering it more often than not, you're probably getting that sale. So we want to see that. And
they just need to become comfortable doing it.
Right. And there comes that peer pressure thing again. If you're keeping track of this, you had regular meetings with your regular team of techs.
Yep. Once a week.
So you'd review the scoreboard?
Yes.
Indeed. And regular weekly meetings with individual techs,
One-on-ones. Cool. And there was a competition. They would go head to head to see who could do better.
And again, we never want to be ripping customers off. That's not the goal here. No. That some of these things are obvious add-ons to jobs, and we want to know that our guys are taking the effort. And so much of this, by doing the debrief, again, it's bringing front of mind to the technician while they're on the job that they're going to have to speak to this after the job and justify, did you offer anything else? Well, yeah, I did. I offered the BioClean, but they said no. Good. But at least you made the offering at that point.
And they may think about it in a week.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. But you put that into their head. This is a different conversation, but being able to follow up when you go into a customer's homes on the offerings that were made previously, talk about a great opportunity to build credibility in your team when people are coming into the home, different technicians, and speaking to the same need of that customer, as opposed to everyone listing something different, and it looks like we're just trying to sell. Yeah. Exactly. So, another really important part of the businesses that you've worked in, the ones that I've worked with, are service agreements or maintenance agreements. Each time that you go into a customer's home, ideally you want to know if that customer has an agreement or not, and you should, either with your dispatch paperwork or from your software. But we want to be offering the ability to sell. So the fifth item that we'd want to be tracking here on every debrief is, was there an opportunity for an agreement sale? And did those technicians sell an agreement on that job? And did you have training that was related specifically to the agreement process, understanding your agreements and how to present them to customers?
And we did role playing.
Oh, great.
To get more comfortable, to talk to the customers.
Excellent. Oh, great. That's always an excellent thing, is to be able to put people in front of each other, and maybe not even, one of the things I would like is grabbing people from other parts of the office, so that you weren't just working with another tech who you could put each other's shoes on in that case, but to grab someone else from the office and ask them to sit there and kind of hear the conversation and object and play off.
It sounds different coming from somebody who isn't a tech versus two techs talking about it.
You got it. And especially because they know what the objection is going to be and how to respond and all the rest. So that simple value. Did the customer have an agreement? Ideally, your person in the office knows this already. But did you sell one? Yes or no? And again, these are the kind of counts, the metrics that we can look at, and we know which techs might need better training and which ones don't. The sixth thing that I think that it's just dramatically important to capture on every job is, were there future opportunities that we might be able to follow up on?
Right.
So what might be something you'd see? You're doing work in the house, and something that you notice that we want to put into the record to make sure that we follow up on.
If you're in there doing a maintenance, you see a 15-year-old hot water tank. You might want to
example
mention
right there.
You might want to mention that we do plumbing.
Yeah.
And just put it
Plant the
out
seed.
there. Right. Plant the seed, exactly.
And by putting that back in, and again, the world of paper, the world versus software make the follow-up on this just a little bit harder. But when you talk about growth opportunities for the business, you talk about filling the shoulder seasons. To be able to pull up a list of the opportunities that we've identified. I've heard scenarios, or had it happen to me, where I'll have someone come in the house, they make an offering of something that maybe is a little bit more money than I can afford to spend now, but I might say, give me a call in April. I'll get my tax return.
Exactly.
Let's talk at that point. Right. To be able to have that opportunity to call that into my dispatcher and say, let's make a note on their record, let's put it in our calendar, something so we remember to follow up with them at a later point. Yep. And the seventh item that I put here that I think that's just absolutely essential to capture in every job is whether or not there was a replacement opportunity on the job and whether that replacement was sold. So replacement opportunities, what does that mean? Generally, we're talking about equipment. We're generally talking about this age-related, but it could be different if you have a system that's just, for whatever reason, salt air or something like that, that's broken down quicker than you might expect. In your shop, were your technicians aware of what you considered to be the age cutoff for replacement?
Always, and we knew which technicians to send when we had a specific equipment that was specific age. So
great. It's a great point, because if I'm working with a customer here, it is winter in Buffalo, and you got a customer with a 17-year-old furnace, and it's just got to get the heat back on. Now, ideally, it depends on my schedule, but I can send my rookie who could get the work done, or in that case, I get my best-selling tech on the job. Right. I want to know that. That software can help me with that. That's having good software information, but being able to judge that then. So, you might have 3 or 4 good selling techs. Great. Get them out there. There's a replacement opportunity on this job. Did they close that deal? Right. Exactly. So we track these other did you close the deals, but this is an important one, because upsells, replacement sales, these are the lifeblood of a lot of our businesses to help us get those big tickets, and develop a relationship with a customer that's going to last for a lot of years, ideally with a maintenance plan to go with that, warranty work if necessary, and so on.
If you go out and you repair a system that's too old and it breaks 6 months later, the customer's going to come back to you. Why didn't you offer me something? Why didn't you tell me this is going to happen?
Indeed.
You want to give them that opportunity.
And now you're trying to explain why the warranty doesn't count here. Right. Ideally, your techs are explaining that we can't warranty the work because of the age and so forth, but does that always happen? No. Not always. Excellent. Right. Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
Again, this is really important information. And it doesn't have to be hard. Again, in the world here, we've got people using paper, we've got people using software. Ideally, the software system that you're using is giving you an ability to capture this data in real time from your technicians. But you can go old school. People have done this for a long time in an old school way. Call into your shop. Have your guys with a piece of paper in the field that they take into every job, write down the answers to these pieces of information before they call in. Putting this into a simple spreadsheet is going to allow your office to run some quick evaluations, look which techs are performing best, look at what those average tickets are, what are our total sales, how many agreements are we selling. Having that data is going to let you run your business better. Thanks a lot for listening and watching. Hopefully you learned a little something today. We encourage you, if you did, to like the video. Actually, even if you didn't, like the video, share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.